Peace. I know coming after comedians is kind of kind of hard, right? But I got jokes too. All right, where's all the musicians at? Artists, people that download music, the people that like to pick up rewritable CDs, musicians, record companies, lawyers. No, my business partner here, he's a lawyer, but he's a great lawyer, so he's a good guy. He's the one good lawyer in the building. And speaking of the building, we just played here a couple months ago. It was such a great time, and this building brings a lot of memories to me. The greatest rap show I've ever seen in my life was in this building, and it wasn't Public Enemy, it was Stetsasonic, 1988. And they fucked this place up. They tore this shit down, 3-hour show. Now, I know 50 Cent was just in town. I don't know how long his show was, but I know he's a 50 Cent fan out there. But, you know, as long as they work hard and sweat, that's what an artist wants to really be represented. I saw my man Rude Boy outside, you know, and Rude Boy was the first person I ever met coming to Holland, the Netherlands, and Amsterdam back in 1987. And he was the first person I met tonight coming into the building. So, but tonight he's going to get down. We're going to represent, do some things. And all the way back then, you know, doing the Urban Dance Squad, all the way up to now, you know, be prepared for a very fantastic show. Now, I don't know how many people on this side of the water saw me in the United States a couple weeks ago on C-SPAN testifying on behalf of downloadable music versus the other side that says that we were stealing. And I saw that LL Cool J was on the other side. And the Recording Industry of America, the RIAA, knew that they could not get an artist representing the other side that would be louder than me or even knew what the fuck they was talking about. Because many artists that actually speak against downloading of music or they speak against the whole aspect of the internet and what the web has, these are artists that are basically trained by the record companies and by the lawyers and the business people to go ahead and speak for the behalf of the record companies who have made so many millions and millions and millions of dollars that they have to get somebody to say, hey, they're stealing from me. And so I wrote a letter, and I don't know how many people want to hear this letter that I wrote to Leor Cohen, who is the president of Def Jam Island Records, Universal, Against the World, whatever the fuck. But I want to read to you the letter if you want me to read to you the letter. Because I know many of you know English just as well as Dutch, but I know no Dutch. And I've been coming here for about 18 years, so I'm a stupid motherfucker, I guess. Anyway, here's the letter. If you don't know some words, look at somebody, tap them on the shoulder and say, what the fuck did you say? Here's the letter. Well, I don't really know what good to say. This goes to Leor Cohen. I think Doug Morris has pimped your brains out or something. That's P-I-M-P. The RIAA looked and called Doug Morris, who probably rang your bell. Thus, you and LL proceeded to do a tap dance with your strings in his back and with Doug Morris's strings in your back and the RIAA in his back, thinking that it would neutralize the grassroots effort of all of this. Number one, I did not get into the digital world for fanfare and hopeful that somebody say, ooh, you're doing something new and great and shit like that. I didn't get into that. You know me, I never sucked no ass to get to a place. It's about the art, integrity, and commitment, as well as the connection to the world, because I refuse to be submissive to the corporate dominance and the collusion of the radio, TV, film networks, record industry, and media companies who now feel that they own and dictate the culture. This collusion has stifled the growth of grassroots business who can no longer afford to build themselves without some kind of drug dealer money behind it to pay for radio and TV to the masses. Seriously, you guys have separated yourself into the same aristocracy we rebelled against in the first place. Being that I spend half my time outside America, and you know what international ties mean since you are born from another place, you should know that stuffing your pockets and altering a domestic law in the United States has little bearing on what the world thinks of, and even in music. The masses of people are important, and somehow using mass media to control their thoughts is becoming a more expensive task with the dwindling results. The public opinion swayed by propaganda, marketing, and promotion will not make the masses sorry for perceived millionaires. It's arrogance, typical American arrogance, that increasingly becoming a symbol of world angst and anti-opinion. The haves over the have-nots. Although it might not be true, it seems that you're responsible for keeping the artists of your company dumb or seemingly dumb to reach the dumbed-down masses of America to buy dumbed-down product. At the end of the day, artists remain childlike under your wings with no world opinion whatsoever, pending the existence of sound scam and the unit soul while people still look to other situations. Final point I'm going to put to this. I wasn't angry, but really it was some bitch-ass shit. As I looked across, there's some rich cats I knew crying about trying to make the hearings into some kind of Hollywood rap mindset and a media fest. In both the film and music industries, the medium of these industries tend to brag about how much they have to say to the same people they look to sell to. I guess it's the American way. But the world is not a Yankee baseball game. It's not bitterness, but it's clarity, and I thought making music was a great way to make a living. But aligning yourselves with the same people we fought against has altered this game into the greed that has to make a killing. So really, they have you in the wrong place on the right stuff that you built and sold your company on. Now, the reason that I sent through this letter, I left out some of the stuff that I had to say about him personally. I know why, right? Because I just basically, it was just some bitch-ass shit. But really, I told him, I said, I'm aware that I realized that the copyrights were never really mine in the first place and were unprotected anyway, to the point of Universal lawyers telling me that I would never ever receive a royalty from them again as they continued to sell music over and over again in all their territories. And I said, well, ain't this the fucking blues all over again? Getting to the point, I'm just running down these notes. Really, you know, in technology, it shapes our minds. I'm going to give out my email address so people can also send me, you know, and jot it down. It's really easy. It's mrchuck@rapstation.com. I'm going to say it 2 more times. If you don't get it, find a friend. For you guys, this is afraid to talk to women. That's your first line. Because, you know, like, technology also kind of fucks us up, too. It's like, now you got all this third-party intermediary shit in order for you to say hi. So now, guys, you can see somebody like, damn, she kind of cute over there. What did he say his email address was? And that's your first line. And it's a cool email address, too. It's mrchuck@rapstation.com. Mr. Chuck, this last time, at rapstation.com. All right. All right. Because I know everybody's in a party mood, half drunk and shit, or really going to be fucked up later on. So let me get this across to people with some jotted crib notes real quick. It's going to be a nice fly keynote. I do this. You know, the whole key, like Prince says, is to be on top of technology instead of technology being on top of you. You want to go forward, but understand that technology giveth and it taketh away. Now, to me, I think technology has expanded the artistry. Once upon a time, when I started in the mid-1980s, getting in the studio was a big fucking task. It was like, whoa, hey, Chuck, we're going to put you in a studio so you can record an album. Whoa! Once you got to that point, you had it made. Now, people got, you know, a bathroom to the left and a studio to the right. And usually they shit on both sometimes. Shit in the studio and it comes out like shit. And shit in the bathroom. But that's their artistic right, because beauty is in the ear of the beholder as well as the eye. But the technology has expanded the artistry. It has expanded the point where people are able to create on the fly. They're able to build and communicate with people from far above, far off places that they've never been able to communicate to before. That is what made the record business kind of mad at this too, because usually when, you know, the first record contract I signed, it said territory, the world and the universe. That means if I'm able to make a record and I get to Venus and Universal didn't get there or Def Jam didn't get there, they still own the rights? Fuck that. Why am I signing a worldwide contract when they can't sell records in Uruguay? Why am I signing a worldwide contract? Because they said, well, we have to control that copyright. If you happen to get to a place, we want to be able to say what we've invested in you will cover the fact that we can't get there, but we will get there to sell your records. Well, anyway, the art form has always run parallel with technology. And the whole key is trying to corral the citizens before they become netizens. And one thing about an MP3 player that's great, you can have a soundtrack in your head, and now you can play the music throughout your life right in front of you. You can say, hey, I want to hear Yesterday by the Beatles, and you don't have to wait for a radio to play that shit. Get an iPod or a Rio or one of the MP3 players, and you say, well, I have a soundtrack in my life, and I got 10,000 songs that I used to kind of hum to myself. I have 10,000 songs I had to think about it, like what was the name and the title of that? And then hopefully look for it in the store and ask a person in the store, do you have that song by so-and-so, so-and-so? Now, all people do is just ring up an MP3 player, and when that thought of the song rings up in their head, then they can all of a sudden say, hey, that's what it sounds like. What's all that noise over there?
There's this really good wave pattern here.
Yeah! I think it's got to be about adjustments. And adjustments, of course, the record industries are very upset, but they got to make adjustments. I'm pretty sure the horseshoe makers got mad when the car companies came along. I'm pretty sure the car manufacturers got mad when the trains really started going into overdrive. And the trains got mad when the airline companies said, you know what, we could move people in the air. Well, the airline industry is getting mad maybe at the space shuttle, or at least trans-beaming, or the thought of terrorism ending their companies. I think it's very key that we become worldly people. And I tell this to Americans all the time. In the music business, it's very key to not detach themselves from the planet for the sake of American business. As it pertains to the music, the industry has lost sense of its humble beginnings while being hypocritical at the same time. Fans and musicians and producers got hold of the technology before the music business, and that's what they're mad about. Does that kill the industry? I don't think so. That's almost like saying the photography industry was messed up and fucked up when they came out with little personal cameras for people. There's still a photography industry of professionals, but the camera just enhances that. And that's what's happened with the music. People are able to make their music, get their music across, they're able to download. It's just a whole nother industry that the industry has to come to grips with. File sharing, P2P, all that stuff is here, and they knew this was going to happen the minute that they decided to digitize music into CD form. They knew it was an unprotected format in the first place. And everybody made their money in the 80s and the 90s selling y'all CDs. It was unprotected the whole time, waiting for a new compression to come along where that digitized signal could be sent over a phone line, or now over a cable line, or now satellite. So how are they going to come up with a law when the genie not only came out of the bottle, but the bottle and the glass had busted in 1,000 pieces? They made a lot of money, as some of y'all went from tape into CDs, said, "Oh, I gotta buy that CD. I gotta go get that CD for twice the price." I remember the first CDs I ever saw on Popular Music was right here in Amsterdam. I looked at it with my tape player, I said, I ain't buying them shits. Sure enough, I had a CD collection 2 years later. Well, who you think got all the money? The record executives, the lawyers, the accountants that made those deals, that pushed this format through, all that surplus of money, they made hand over fist as old school people kind of like bought that Buffalo Springfield all over again. They had the big album and said, oh, yeah, you want to hear it on your new CD player, which the companies also had the hardware and the software. People rebought their collections over again, and young people started out on the CD saying, ooh, this is how I like CDs. All the way to my kids. You know, my kids and their friends, they don't even follow titles in a song. Or they say, ooh, I like track 9. Now, why the hell would an artist even come up with a title if it's going to end up being track 6? So, to raise the prices in the hardware and in the software, the companies definitely profited in the 80s and the 90s. That period is over. Now, like they say in kindergarten, and I know that's a Dutch word, we are taught to share. And let's talk about the crime. It's difficult to define the crime alongside the technological innovations that are moving faster than the domestic and international legal corralling of the art. Did y'all hear what I just said? I could get louder. Did y'all hear what I just said? I said, it's difficult to define the crime alongside the technological innovations that are moving faster than the domestic and legal corralling of the art. Hey, I could get pretty loud here. Sometimes I say, you know what? There's a crumbling economy in the United States and elsewhere, but the collusion of 5 record companies and 4 radio networks and a few TV outlets and the continuation of the film giants have stifled the growth of grassroots artists and business in terms of the new exposure. Now somebody says, what about a new artist? At least a new artist, you can begin at least by doing and creating your own music and distributing it across the world and finding people one by one. You're not going to operate like a record company coming up with numbers like 239,365. No, fuck that. You're going to go one by one, and that's how you're going to find your following. This will not eliminate the majors. This will not eliminate independent situations. This is all just a creation of a new tier of artistry called interdependent artistry. It allows you to get into the game. It allows your music to be recorded. It allows your artwork to be transmitted. It allows you to understand what it takes from ground grassroots level before you decide that it's ready for you to become an independent label or independent artist. Once you're an independent label or independent artist, then the majors will come either look at you where you should decide whether you want to be with them or not. So this is a third tier. Don't think this is going to be an automatic thing that all of a sudden you're on the internet and you're going to sell millions of fucking records because you send out MP3s. You're fucking fooling yourself. But this could be the new accessible radio, because radio in the United States is quite stale. It takes $1.6 million for an urban record to actually get on urban radio, which is controlled by a conglomerate anyway. So in order for the masses to hear signals coming from its own community, those artists have to get signed to LA or New York record companies to get played right back in the place where these artists come from. That's hypocritical to the art. Some solutions that can happen is that the performance fees might have to be considered rather than looking at this as a mechanical deficit. I never felt my copyrights were protected by the companies anyway. The contracts, the lawyers, accountants, and biz execs, when they said I'd never receive a dime again, I had to be able to make adjustments. I made my adjustments in the web world because it allowed me to reach places that the record companies did not reach. In lieu of money spent on my behalf, not giving me the money, but spending it in my behalf, because they said they had to spend for marketing and promotional fees to clear the high hurdle that collusion formed in the first goddamn place, is all about control. The usual names and suspects still want to maintain it. The hypocrisy of seeing LL and Leor across from me at the Senate hearings in the United States was the fact that they were talking about stealing when Def Jam and rap music was built off of taking other music in the first place. I said, don't be fucking hypocritical. Music machines, turntables, samples. It's what built the company in order for Leo Cohen and Russell Simmons to sell it for $160 million. Using music that was previously music without permission. Swap meets flea markets having illegal tapes. We could always trace this back to the blues, where somebody looked at a blues delta, a musician, and all of a sudden take the licks and end up being the Rolling Stones, where y'all end up paying 160 euros to go to the goddamn concert. So let's not talk about the record industry trying to be righteous all of a sudden. They ain't Jesus. They talk about domination of what they once had entirely just for them. Like I said, P2P means power to the people, and the haves and the have-nots in the music industry are now interactively blurred. I would say that again. The lines between the have and the have-nots in the music industry are now interactively blurred. There are some unsolvable problems that the music business cannot even get close to handling. Let's say if Jimi Hendrix recorded with one company owned by Universal, and let's say Jim Morrison recorded with another company which is owned by Time Warner. You know, if they both got down together in a concert, who puts that motherfucker out? It's a lawyer game then, right? Oh, so they just don't fuck with it. So therefore, somebody could download that whole album before they happen to market it between the two companies. So a lot of the times that the legalities of the record companies prevent them from going forward at a fan's pace. So you got to understand, they let the genie out of the bottle, and the bottle is burst in 1,500 pieces. Where do you stand as musicians? Well, first of all, if you're a musician, you should continue to make your art. If you're thinking about getting paid for every note that you play, then you're in the wrong motherfucking game anyway. You should do it first for the love, just like a fisherman would fish. What makes a fisherman fish? The fact that he got to be on a boat in order for him to eat every day? He better love fishing, because there's going to be many a day he ain't going to catch no fish. Same thing with a musician. You have to love the music and play your music with no ulterior motive. One day somebody might come and bite the hook and say, oh, wow, your music's really great. You don't have the fact of, because it doesn't make money for you right away, you can't become an artist from the bottom to the top. You should understand that now technology has allowed you to make the music. Yes, you have to have some kind of skills or be with people to help you make the music if you can't make it yourself. Whatever you don't know in this music business, you have to pay somebody for. If you don't know this shit, got to get somebody to do it. If you get somebody to do it, you better have a hell of a conversation. Or I don't know, maybe a fucking hash cigar or whatever the fuck. But you better be able to do it yourself or you're going to have to pay somebody for it. The best musicians are the ones that have it inside them, that work on their craft and able to do it for nothing. And it doesn't cost them anything. If it doesn't cost you anything to do, then, hey, the sky and the ceiling is up in front of you. That's how names could get built. In a minute, there's so many distribution hubs that will corral and send new music and new musicians around the world that there will be avenues for new musicians to showcase their art in other places across the world other than their own home or their own locale. That's the beautiful thing about the internet, is that you could be in the same place, but you could be open to the world. That's why they say education is important. Because although you might be stuck in a little ass town, education opens your head up to see another place, to understand another place, and mentally you could go to another place without physically being there. Now you have apparatus such as the internet that can even open your head up further, and now you can interact to that other place, and then one day you will be there. But you got to at least build on what you have to get there. So shutting it down and shutting down peer-to-peer and file sharing, that's just people so they could keep their same power and dominance going on and on and on and on. Only so they could tell you in 4 years that it's the greatest fucking thing in sliced bread and that you should join their company because they lead the world in file sharing and P2P. I see so many people jump from one side to another side. Like, damn, didn't you represent the labels on one day? And then all of a sudden they're on this side and they jump on that side. That's the same game that they played with the artists back in the 80s. A guy who's a lawyer for the record company, all of a sudden is a lawyer for the artists, and then he's a lawyer back for the record companies again. He's just following the fucking dollar or the euro. As far as a company, I think your solution is to share. The music business has to be able to be open-minded and look at this third realm of music as being something that they can look into. And hey, you know what? It should make their A&R departments easier, because instead of, I got to get up off my ass and go to Rotterdam and see this little group. Now they can sit in their office and just check out websites and performances and then check out the group before they happen to sign them. So the smart record company executive should use this to their advantage. The web, artistry, websites, email, all that, they should use this to their advantage. The consumer, all right, from the consumer standpoint, number one, there's food, shelter, and clothing. That's what people will pay for. Music, people will pay for what is great. They will no longer be tricked by shit that's all right. They will pay for shit that is great. Or they will pay for shit that maybe has $10 million in marketing and promotion behind it. And people are brainwashed into getting it like the Pied Piper told the mice to come follow him. Yeah, but how many times can you do that? You can't do that with 100 artists. Yeah, we're going to spend $10 million on each one of our 3,000 artists. Fuck that. You'll really be broke. And that's what they realizing. They can't spend that money on every single artist like that. So as the consumer, burn, burn, burn away. They wouldn't have computers for sale if they didn't want you to buy it. They wouldn't, hey, listen, if this shit was so fucked up, right, they wouldn't have rewritable CDs. They wouldn't have blank CDs for sale. If you want to stop people from burning, then tell the stores to stop selling blank CDs. What do you think, people just putting documents on this shit? Oh yeah, I'm just putting my taxes on my CDs, so I'm storing this file. Yeah. It's like the same argument they have in the United States about Kmart. They blame Kmart for murdering because they sell guns in Kmart and they sell the bullets. So, you know, it's like, well, they sell the guns, and well, take the guns out of Kmart then. Well, we still want to sell guns and we still want to sell bullets. We're not making the murderers. Okay. We sell computers, we sell blank CDs, but we're not making the people burn and download the Beatles or 50 Cent. Like I said, it's the new rate. If you're the consumer, check this out. If you're the consumer and you looked on MTV and saw a group that you liked, you want that one song. You don't want to be tricked into getting the other 14 fucking songs on the person's album. You like, I want the one song, I want the single, and I want to pay $1 for it. If that. I don't want to have to pay 14 euros or 17 euros or 26 euros for the other fucking songs I don't want. That's what the consumers are saying. It's like, you know what? I'll pay for what I like. I'll pay for what's great. I don't want all that other shit. I don't want steak on top of my ice cream. Nobody's telling you steak is bad. It's just like, yo, I don't want steak on top of my ice cream. And that's where the public is at. I got 2 more minutes. Maybe I answer some questions. That'll be fun. So for the consumer, hey, the crazy shit they have in the United States is that they're going to average everyday people and sending them lawsuits of $340,000 of people who are like children living in their parents' house. Now you tell me, that shit sounds like Gestapo to me. For real. That's some straight out Nazi shit going on in there. We'll stop that 8-year-old person from downloading Christina Aguilera's whack shit. I'm like, you gotta be kidding. I told the people straight out. I told this interview, I said, look, man, my 15-year-old, I told just like this. You want to talk about us from the streets? I give that real street shit. Hey, I got a 15-year-old daughter and a 10-year-old daughter. I go out and get a stack of them blank CDs. Stack of them shits. I ain't buying not a goddamn brand new album for nothing, because, you know, food, shelter, and clothing is what I gotta get them. I told them, I said, look, y'all send any of them loyal people around to my house, y'all can get fucking dealt with. I live up in the hood for real. Send me that bullshit. Oh, yes, okay. And then they quick to avoid, okay, he's just crazy. How you gonna send a child a summons that they gotta pay $300,000 for downloading music? So, really, it could get to a point where it's really ridiculous. The consumers have a point. Believe me, if you really like somebody and you download the music and you love it, believe me, 9 times out of 10, you want to go to the store and say, I want to get the artwork, I want to get the package because I love these motherfuckers. You just don't want to buy shit that you kind of like. I understand that. I mean, my shit is downloaded all over the world now, and you know what? I say, you know, yeah, are you affected, Chuck? Since you have a name already? Hell yeah, I'm affected, but I got to make adjustments. You can't download a t-shirt. You can't. People come to the concert. People come to the concert. If I do a whack-ass show, motherfuckers are mad because they say, man, I paid whatever the fuck I paid, and mad because they gave a whack-ass show. So yeah, you got to make adjustments. Metallica coming out 2 years ago, and it's like, how much money do you want to? How much is too much? God, you want to make so much till you get to the moon and shit. And what you gonna do once you get there? It's like, well, we got to stop those people from downloading our music because they're killing us with the business. Last point I'm gonna say before I answer a couple of questions is that American business is too much placed on the woulda, shoulda, and projection. The music and the film business is placed too much priority on what we should have made, projection, advances, instead of what they already have made. You cannot count what's not there. That's what I'm saying. Even if you get into a period and you're selling your music, try to understand the appreciation of 1. Before you get to 3, you got to get to 2. Before you get to 100, you got to get to 96. You can't say, well, we sold 126 CDs, but downloading has taken 932,498 customers away that you never had in the first goddamn place. So I want to make y'all understand is that you got to count what's there. Business is reality of what's there, not what you should have had, not projections of what you could have had, because a whole bunch of marketing and promotional people said that technology has robbed the business. They had a big period in the 80s and 90s where record executives were getting $15 million a year for fucking doing what? Putting this over here and that over there? What the fuck? You had musicians really busting their ass that never, ever, ever, ever seen maybe a hundredth of what these record executives were getting. And they all got their money because the CD was able to come at people in digitized form, and people was able to spend their money twice as much, rebuy their collections, and buy something that tape that would have been half as much and spent 3 times as much as the dollar, especially internationally. Y'all know. Okay, I'll take a couple of questions, then we're going to get on with the music, because the music is important. Yes, say your name, say it loud so I can repeat it over and over again. I don't freestyle. You got Patrick and Rude Boy coming up here later. I might be with them now. Hold your seatbelt.
Okay, my name is Julia, and okay. You are a #1 recording artist, and you know, you've done your shit, and your whole game in like the past was probably helpful to the record industry that you are attacking now, right? Do you think that makes you like? I obviously agree with what you're saying, but can you understand the double point that you were talking about before?
She says something that's not as loud as me. No, she says, since I helped those record companies, right? To a certain extent, I helped them do, well, shit, I'm an artist. Remember, I didn't send away demo tapes hoping that, sign me. So I came through a whole different thing. Rick Rubin called my house for 2 years saying, I got this rap thing, and I think you could do it well. Would you mind coming to me and my company? So I got involved with Def Jam because it was us against the world. It wasn't considered real music. My whole fucking situation to deal with them is like I came in the music industry from the rap point to destroy the music industry from day one to respect rap music and black musicians and try to even the playing field. That was my meaning from day one. Now when I got in there, I saw that people I was surrounded by ended up doing the same thing that we rebelled against. So my whole thing is that I disagreed with that later on, and I said, you know what, in order for me to fight for grassroots rap music is global, but if you look at rap music now, you know, it happens to operate from LA, New York, mainstream, and everything else does not count. So my whole thing was always to fight for the music and the musicians of rap music first, because that's where I come from. You know, just like a blues cat would talk about the blues. So yes, those recording companies put my music out, but also understand this. I was in one of the first rap groups that liked going around the world, because my whole thing, I want to go around the world. Most rap groups and most rap artists at that time be like, yo, I ain't leaving New York, fuck that. Hey, go to Amsterdam. I ain't going to fucking whatever. Yo, man, you could go over there and smoke. Oh, yeah, I'll go. All right, yo, but not only Amsterdam, but you got to play Belgium, you got to play Germany, you got to go to Paris. Motherfuckers like, nah, fuck, I ain't going to all them other places. Can you smoke there? So that's all beside the music. To me, it's about hip-hop, about the music, and all the other musics that's trying to go from the grassroots level. And yes, the majors and the other artists doing rock and roll, that's important too. But to me, it's about the music and the musicians. And yes, like I said, if you're a brand new musician or if you're an artist that's been doing it for 12 years and you're trying to get your name, listen to this. If you're a musician and an artist and you're trying to get your name, expect a lot of company. Back then, I was 1 out of 20 groups. Right now in rap music and hip hop, there's 5 billion groups. Same thing like, yeah, you know how to play the guitar well. Well, there's 80 billion guitar players that's also on the internet. Expect company. But you know what? There's a lot of soccer players in the world too. Football players. There's a lot of athletes in the world too, right? Aren't there? What separates them? Talent, quality, skill, opportunity, all these things. So at least the internet gives everybody a playing field to explore their craft and get their craft across. But expect company. And don't expect companies. All right. Puns, the big pun.
Two thoughts I had. I had with your story. Interestingly enough, a while ago, I came across a website. I forgot the URL. You would have to look it up yourself. But how at the turn of the last century, around the early 1900s, with the invention of the phonogram, in fact, the publishers of written music made a case against these record companies to have that forbidden because they would interfere with their selling of written music. And this was in the US, and in fact it was overturned by the US court in the end. It's an interesting, what is, yeah, well, vergelijking daar. Yes, comparison, thank you. Secondly, you were touching on web radio. I'm from Radio Patapoe, which is in fact one of it's the only free alternative radio in the ether today in Holland. Because of the re-auctioning of the ether waves, which took place earlier this year. We also do webcasting, as do many other stations.
Can I have some respect for come on now? I mean, it ain't gonna take all day, just a couple more, and then y'all gonna get your party on. But listen, y'all reminded me of Californians who voted for Schwarzenegger. Come on now.
In fact, with webcasting and many other free stations are still broadcasting on the web, if nowhere else, we've been hit by the copyright authorities here, wanting us to pay the copyrights for us webcasting material, which is a very strange situation because, first of all, the artists that we are broadcasting are, of course, we are promoting them, we are not robbing of them. There are local punk bands and blah, and international punk bands, and what do you say, ethnic music, whatever. It's a broad range of music, but it's not like we're robbing anyone. Moreover, we are quite willing to pay in concordance with the turnover that we make, which is zero, so we would be glad to pay 10 or 20% of the zero turnover that we make. Well, those were my two thoughts.
All right, he's a webcaster, and he said that's trying to stop him from doing what he does, because he tries to promote bands and punk bands and try to break new artists, and they're charging him a heavy fee just to do that. So that's telling you right off. If you don't fight for people like him, then you just got a website. Your shit is going nowhere unless you align yourself with situations that distribute and promote. If you want to say fuck the business and fuck the industry, you got to be helpful in building your own. And the people can build their own, but they got to just share the industry too. And at the end of the day, it boils down to who really wants to be a great musician. And, you know, even if you suck, it's, you know, we'll be the motherfucker that sucks and brags about it. You'll find somebody that loves you. One more question, then they're kicking me off the stage. Yes, all right. This is quite a lot. Chuck's present. Oh, you did the artwork and everything. Thank you. All right, you want me to hold it up? My present. Hey, before I leave, I ain't really leaving. I'll be around. You don't see no bodyguards. The big record industries are not the bad guys because it's not one person. These are people that have jobs. And just like a musician, you have your own business, the business of your music. Anytime that somebody with a job tells you what to do with your business, something's bound to be fucked up. That's the biggest problem here. They have a job. And if they happen to lose their job, then their philosophies could change like, whoop! Oh, I dig you now because your music is so great. But their job, in many cases, as an order from their bosses, is to stop you until they understand. And once they understand, oh, it's cool. But they don't understand totally yet. They think that you're robbing them of reaching 979,232 units sold in the stores at 26 euro. So, I bid you adieu. It's been a pleasure. Let's get with the music. Download your music. You could go to rap. If you got time, if any of y'all happen to like hip-hop from time to time, you know, we're really retooling rapstation.com. You could go there, pay a visit. Like I said, send me an email once in a while. And, you know, it's the real global experience. We got Remix Universe coming there where acapellas are uploaded, beat makers are uploaded, people make their remixes and they spread it around the world. Why not? This is all good. It's all fun. All right, y'all, let's have a good time. Keep it rolling. Keep it popping. Keep it moving. All right, here we go.